Welcome to a webinar today featuring Congressman T.J. Cox in California's 21st District. And we'll be talking about all of the benefits and all of the programs for small businesses that have been affected by COVID-19. So the COVID-19 response is going to be, and as you have seen, it's been large to date, and going over the CARES Act that was passed into law back on March 31st. And also a lot of the factors that are out there and a lot of the benefits for our small businesses throughout the Central California region. Good afternoon, I'm Kelly Bearden. I'm the director of the CSU Bakersfield Small Business Development Center. And I'll be on a little bit later to talk about that. And just going over our distinguished guest today. In addition to the congressman, we're going to have a presentation by Corey Williams, who's a public affairs officer for the U.S. Small Business Administration, that we commonly refer to as SBA. And then we'll hear from Don Golick. And Don is the district director of the Fresno, California district, and she will present. We'll have time for your questions. We have received a number of questions that we'll start with, but if you see the question box, if you go into there and ask a question, later on, if we have more time, we will access those questions as well. So, without any further ado, Congressman T.J. Cox represents, as I mentioned, the 21st District of Central California, I believe going all the way from Fresno to Kern counties. It's my pleasure to introduce T.J. Cox. Congressman, take it away.
Hey, no, thank you so much for moderating today's briefing on this, and thank you so much for the SBA, Dawn and her team for being here. We're in the middle of a crisis that this nation has really never faced, certainly in many of our lifetimes, both on a healthcare aspect and certainly on an economic aspect as well. We're in a crisis right now. But here's what we know, is that we know that we're going to be able to get through this. Certainly we're doing a good job here in California, minimizing the negative health aspects of it. We're practicing our social distancing, which has been fantastic. Our frontline healthcare workers and all the other first responders are doing just a great job. We're masking up. And so hopefully those the negative healthcare aspects are really going to be minimized. But we cannot discount the economic impact that this crisis has had on us. I mean, everybody knows is somebody that's been laid off, has been furloughed, businesses that have been closed. And so this is a real economic crisis. And the Congress has done a few things so far to be able to combat this, to be able to mitigate those negative ramifications of this crisis. One, we passed an $8.5 billion bill. About 3 weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, we passed the Families First Response Act to the crisis. And just last week, we passed the CARES Act. And that was signed into law. And some of the things in the CARES Act are going to directly be able to affect small businesses and be able to provide them with the funds that hopefully that they'll be able to utilize to weather this storm. And so a couple of things here with regard to that. Let me see if I can bring up my my slides here, is that, certainly what does the CARES Act mean for our small business? And the number one thing that we've been hearing is, we know that there's some money out there. There's money under a couple programs that Dawn and the SBA will describe for us. But one, it's the thing that everyone's focusing on today is the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program. And the basic questions that we get is, how do I find out more information about that? And the simplest thing is really just go to sba.gov. And there's going to be a slide that's going to be coming up that shows, once again, sba.gov. All the information that you need is right there. If you need further information, not only on that, but on just on everything, anything that you need to know with regard to the coronavirus issues is available at our website. We have a whole Central Valley Coronavirus Information Center, and you can go there. The website address is on your screen, but it's cox.house.gov, and that is available both in English and in Spanish. And so, the CARES Act, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, that was the very first And the largest package that we've passed so far, $2.2 trillion. That's 2.2 followed by 12 zeros. And the good news is, it was an immediate step, came together very fast to get the money out there. Bad news is, we know it's not going to be enough. And I can tell you, we just got off calls this morning talking about supplemental funding for the CARES Act, and actually more funding for a CARES 2 type of package. And what is it going to do? One, it provides $10 billion for immediate disaster grants for small businesses. And this is emergency, injury, disaster, loan. It's the EIDL, or some people call it the EIDL program. But $10 million of basically immediate disaster relief for small businesses. Once again, you can access the applications for that, sba.gov. But particularly in the CARES Act, there's $349 billion loans for payroll in this payroll protection program. Once again, you see on the left, $10 billion immediate disaster relief grants, $17 billion in debt relief to SBA borrowers. I think many of the SBA borrowers out there today have seen that the SBA has suspended interest and principal payments for their loans. That's fantastic. There's all kinds of other monies available for training and counseling, certainly more monies for the SBA to do the fine job that they're doing, and other programs. Once again, $349 billion in forgivable loans for small business payroll. So this is the Payroll Protection Act that Don and the SBA will be talking about in just a few minutes. Starting to get started, here's some things to look at. Once again, emergency economic injury grants for immediate money right now, small business debt relief programs, the paycheck protection programs, SBA.gov. And one of the questions that we get, certainly in our district, the 21st Congressional District, essentially the top ag district in the top ag state, is are these grants available for farmers and ranchers? And on some of the loan applications that you might have seen is that there's actually a click button that says, hey, if you're a farmer or rancher that you don't qualify, we can tell you that that is wrong. And I think that's being corrected on those forms now. If you are a farmer or rancher, you do qualify. That is the congressional intent. And you can see right there that they're available, farmers or ranchers, ag businesses available for up to $10 million in business interruption loans through eligible lenders and so on. Also, there was some money provided so we can increase the capacity at the farm service agencies so they can actually get the work done that they need to do. Certainly there's assistance for small towns and communities. That's part of the supplemental bills that we're looking at right now, and it's going to be part of the CARES 2 Act. Certainly at this period in time, we know that food insecurity and just coming up with money for groceries is very difficult for so many of our families. Now, there's been unprecedented demand of people needing to have food and families really going hungry. And so there's quite a bit of resources and money being provided to want not only increase the SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefits, but also for money to buy foods. So food banks and other food suppliers and organizations can actually get that money out or actually get that food out into the communities. If you want to know where you can actually access and find some of these outlets where food is available, once again, you can go to our website, cox.house.gov, in our coronavirus resource center, and we've got a listing of all of those locations, the times that they distribute, and so on. And so in some of the provisions is that in the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, there were provisions that not only provide employees with actually sick leave, paid sick leave, but also family medical leave. Is that if you need to care for a loved one, somebody else in your family that may be at home or has come down with the coronavirus, there are facilities for businesses to be able to provide paid sick leave and emergency family leave. And here's some particulars on that. I won't go into that today, but all that information is, once again, it's up on the website. And if you have any direct questions with regard to that, you can certainly contact our office. And there's going to be some links to email addresses or actually our own phone number that you can call to inquire about these. So here's some more particulars about that. But basically, that on the emergency paid sick leave, that you could have 2 weeks of pay at 100% for sick leave, and then for the family medical leave, that you'd get paid for up to I think it's up to 12 weeks. It is up 12 weeks at 2/3 of the regular rate. And so this is the slide that we're looking at today right now regarding unemployment compensation insurance. It's not really so much for the businesses. This was provided for the Families First Act, but for the furloughed and the unemployed individuals, certainly there's the state benefits. But one of the biggest benefits that was passed was up to $600 for these furloughed and laid off employees per week for the next, I think it's 12 weeks. That will be supplemental unemployment compensation. And that's fantastic. I mean, that's $600 a week. That turns out $15 an hour, 40 hours a week, $600 a week. That's the good news. The bad news is that, as I was saying before, a lot of this legislation all came out very, very quickly. And although it's been authorized and the money is out there, the particular agencies, the Department of Labor or the Treasury Department, they frankly, in fact, he was on a phone call today. They said, hey, we know that there's this critical need, but the fact is we're building the plane as at the same time we're flying it. And so some of the direct ways to be able to operationalize and get this money out there, I mean, it is still being developed by the hour. And so with regard to the $600 a week unemployment, additional unemployment insurance, the directions for that will be coming out very, very shortly, but we can't give individuals an answer today exactly when that's going to be available, but it will be very soon. And finally, let's see, here's the resources available. Once again, cox.house.gov for their Central Valley Coronavirus Information Center, Small Business Administration, SBA.gov. And let's see. And here are some direct phone numbers for if you have direct questions you want to ask us. It's the ca21tc.casework@mail.house.gov. That comes directly to our office. The 559-460-6071. That is our direct phone number for our district office headquarters here in Selma. Questions, the SBA. One of the better email addresses that we have to get direct local questions answers is at sba.gov. And their phone number is at the bottom, but I think really the best way to actually get your questions answered in the most timely manner possible is really through the SBA's to email them. At any rate, that is just some quick information that we have. Beg your pardon. Let's see if I can get back here about the CARES Act. Let's see. Let me see if I can get back to the first slide here. So what we're talking about right now is that the demand for these monies is the demand is already outpaced what is available today. So what we're talking about is a supplemental bill that we hopefully pass maybe tomorrow. We're actually through the weekend provide about another $150 billion to get provide for this Paycheck Protection Program and more CARES Act funding. That's a supplemental appropriation. And then be assured that there's a CARES Act 2 that we're working on right now. That we want to make sure that that we can all get through this with the least amount of harm to our businesses and our individuals and our families as possible, and to make sure that certainly everyone can survive this emergency, both in terms of healthcare and with terms of your economic well-being. And with that, I'd like to then turn it over now to our the SBA's Public Affairs Officer, Corey Williams, where I think he's got some particulars on the programs that are available out there now.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on the Teletown Hall. My name is Corey Williams. I'm a public information officer with the U.S. Small Business Administration's Office of Disaster Assistance, and I'm going to be speaking with you about the economic injury disaster loans. So if your small business or nonprofit is in a declared disaster area and has suffered substantial economic injury, the business or nonprofit may be eligible for an economic injury disaster loan. Substantial economic injury means the business is unable to meet its obligations and to pay its ordinary and necessary operating expenses. Now, when Governor Newsom requested the actual request for COVID-19, it covers every county within the state of California. So every county is a declared disaster area and is thus eligible for the economic injury disaster loan. Now, the economic injury disaster loans provide the necessary working capital to help small businesses and nonprofits until normal operations resume. And our SBA administrator, Jovita Carranza, made the loans available in response to COVID-19. Now, what you'll notice on all of the press releases for California is that they're all dated as of January 31st. So in order to be eligible for the economic injury disaster loan, your business had to be in existence as of January 31st, 2020. Now, the U.S. Small Business Administration's low-interest economic injury disaster loans are now available again to small businesses, small agricultural co-ops, small aquaculture businesses, and private nonprofit organizations, which would include any faith-based organizations as well. Now, economic injury disaster loans are available to small businesses, small agriculture co-ops, small aquaculture businesses, and most private nonprofit organizations, as I mentioned, which would include any faith-based organizations. And examples of eligible businesses would include businesses directly affected by the disaster, businesses that offer services directly related to the businesses targeted in the declaration, and other businesses indirectly related to the industry that are likely to be harmed by losses in their community. Now, with the economic injury disaster loan, all of the loans are actually amortized over a 30-year period, and it's a fixed rate of 3.75% for our small businesses and small agriculture co-ops, and it's a fixed rate of 2.75% for our nonprofits, which would include any of our faith-based organizations. This would also include no cost to apply, no closing costs, and no prepayment penalties. Even though the loan is amortized over 30 years, you can pay it out earlier without having any kind of prepayment penalties. Further, with the economic injury disaster loan, it is a one-year deferment. So most likely you're not going to have to pay your first payment until April or May of 2021. Now, economic injury disaster loans help meet working capital needs caused by the declared disaster, and they help pay financial obligations and operating expenses which could have been paid had the disaster not occurred. So I always kind of use my law school background, and I always say to use the but-for test. So but for COVID-19, we've seen events canceled. But for COVID-19, we've seen sales dropped. But for COVID-19, we've seen contracts delayed or postponed or even canceled. These are all directly related to COVID-19 and are thus signs of economic injury. And so that would impact any kind of fixed debt payments, payroll, accounts payable, etc. Also, it would cover any extraordinary expenses caused by the disaster. However, economic injury disaster loans do not replace any lost revenue, lost profits, or fund any expansion efforts. Now, the maximum amount that can be borrowed for the economic injury disaster loan is $2 million. unless the business may be considered a major source of employment. But that decision will not be made by us in the field. It'll actually be made by the processing center in Fort Worth, Texas, if that business is deemed a major source of employment. Now, you can also apply online for the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan by going to COVID-19relief.sba.gov. Again, that's COVID, COVID, the numeral 19relief.sba.gov. And one of the things that you're going to find when you go to the website is that it's a much more streamlined process. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes in order to apply online for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, whether you are a sole proprietor, whether you're an independent contractor, a small agriculture co-op, or even a nonprofit. So it's a very quick process, and we're doing everything we can to expedite the loans as quickly as possible and get funds to our businesses and nonprofits as well. Now, the one thing I did want to mention is that if you apply prior to March 29th, which was our launching of our new portal, we strongly encourage you to reapply using the new streamlined application process, because what that's going to do is open you up for the up to $10,000 of emergency EIDL forgiveness. Now, I preface that by saying up to $10,000, and it's based primarily on the number of employees, not independent contractors that you have under your employ. So if, let's say, we have a business that has 10 employees, W-2 employees, and then they also have another 10 independent contractors. Well, then they're most likely going to be eligible for the full $10,000 for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan forgiveness based on their number of employees as of the time of the declaration. Now, for credit requirements, applicants must have a credit history acceptable to SBA, and applicants must show the ability to repay all loans. But now, as a part of being able to get more of our businesses and nonprofits and faith-based organizations approved, by the loans being amortized over 30 years, that helps out the amortization period. I mean, that helps out the repayment because it makes the payments much lower. So, for example, a business that may borrow $25,000, which is the maximum unsecured amount, that amortized over a 30-year period is approximately $117 a month. So, as a part of the processing center's determination, that does help out the repayment ability. Now, any of our economic injury disaster loans that are in excess of $25,000 would require collateral. Now, we understand that a number of county offices where real estate is recorded are closed due to COVID-19. So SBA is also looking into alternate sources of collateral, such as taking a security agreement in furniture, fixtures, machinery, equipment, inventory. So there are other options other than just taking a security interest in real estate. And then SBA will not decline a loan for lack of collateral, but requires borrowers to pledge what may be available. Now, because we're making a number of modifications to the program, I will hold all questions, I guess, during our question and answer period. But I do want to encourage you that because there are a number of modifications to the economic injury disaster loan going forth every day, we want to make sure that you continue to make sure you're putting in your application as soon as possible to be considered for that up to $10,000 in the EIDL forgiveness funds. But with that, I'll pass it along.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Corey. Thank you for the perspective on EIDL. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Don Golick. And Don is the District Director for the Fresno District Office of the U.S. Small Business Administration, which covers, I believe, 15 counties throughout Central California, all the way up to Mono County in the north and down to Kern in the south. Don, take it away, please.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you so much, Congressman Cox, and good afternoon to all of the small businesses and everybody watching. I'm Don Golick. I'm the District Director for the SBA's Fresno District Office, which serves all of California's 21st Congressional District, as well as additional counties throughout the San Joaquin Valley and Central Coast. The Small Business Administration is the federal agency that is here to serve small businesses. And we recognize that right now is a very challenging time for our country's small businesses. There are programs that are available to assist small businesses, including, as Corey mentioned, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. I'd like to also talk about a second program, the Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP. Last Friday, the Paycheck Protection Program began accepting applications from small businesses. And like the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, it provides an opportunity for businesses that have been impacted by the COVID-19 virus to be able to tap into funds that they can use to continue to operate their business. And specifically, the Paycheck Protection Program provides a forgivable loan for businesses that can be used to pay, among other things, payroll, as well as utilities, rent, and interest on mortgages. The SBA recognizes that for our small businesses, one of the biggest worries and concerns right now is how to keep your employees paid. This is a source of, great concern for business owners and great anxiety. So the Paycheck Protection Program is an opportunity through participating lenders for small businesses to apply for a loan, which at the end of the loan period, for the portion which is used for these approved purposes, can be forgiven. The SBA made the website for this live last Friday so that businesses could search for a lender that they could work with. Unlike the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, where small businesses apply directly to the SBA, under the Paycheck Protection Program, small businesses apply directly to a SBA lender. We recognize that for a program that's been live for 6 days now, that there have been some challenges for businesses trying to find a lender in your area that you can work with, and I want to tell you what the SBA is doing about that. First of all, from our office in Fresno, the Fresno District SBA office is supporting lenders, local lenders throughout the San Joaquin Valley and Central Coast who are interested in making the Paycheck Protection Loan available. So for lenders that have reached out to SBA and said, hey, we would love to do this, we want to be a participating lender, we are working with them to get them access to the systems that they need in order to be able to process these loan applications. So locally, we're working to add new lenders to the pool of lenders that you can apply to. Nationally, SBA is working with banks that are currently participating in the program to help them look at ways to provide the Paycheck Protection Program to more and different customers and borrowers than what they're currently working with. We certainly hear some of the frustrations on the part of borrowers who are struggling to find a lender that's participating who can take their application. And so I want you to know that we are working both locally and then also at the national level to address those challenges. To find a lender, you can go on the SBA.gov website, which Congressman Cox mentioned right at the top of our presentation here today, and look for a lender. You can search by zip code to find a lender near you. You would then reach out and contact the lender, find out if they're still taking applications and how they would like for you to submit your application. Certainly with the shelter in place that many of us in California are still affected by, many lenders are not accepting paper applications. They want borrowers to apply online. So you can use the SBA website to search for a lender, find a lender, contact the lender that you would like to work with, and then from there, find out how the lender would want you to submit your application. Another question that we're getting quite a bit in the Fresno District Office is questions about calculating payroll. So the application that businesses would submit to the lender includes information on how they've calculated their payroll using a number of different factors. What I want to let you know is that the program again came out last Friday. There is some excellent resource information available not only on the SBA website, www.sba.gov, but also on the United States Department of Treasury website, which is www.treasury.gov. And it includes detailed, specific information about what small businesses need to include when they do their payroll calculation. Those documents also include sample payroll calculations and provide you a great resource and tool that you can use when it comes to filling out and preparing your application to submit to your lender. I also want to let you know that the lenders will forgive a portion of the loan at the end of the covered period under the Paycheck Protection Program. And for any expenses that a business has taken out a PPP loan for, which are not forgiven, the loan has a 6-month deferment where no payments will be due. And then for any balance that's due on the loan, the businesses will have up to 2 years at a low interest rate of 1% fixed. So really what this program does is it gives businesses access to the capital they need to primarily pay their employees, but also to a lesser degree, a limited degree, help them with paying rent, paying utilities, and paying interest on a mortgage. And then for any balance of the loan not used for those purposes, 2 years to repay at a 1% interest. Another question that we get regularly has to do with, well, what if my business is still closed? How does that affect me? So it's important for businesses to note that Paycheck Protection Program can be used to pay employees under a variety of scenarios, which could also include employees being on vacation, employees being on sick leave, employees being out for other purposes. So again, the documentation that's been released either on the SBA.gov website or on the US Treasury website provides a great deal of information and detail to help businesses look at whether or not this program is a good fit for them, identify lenders that they can contact to submit an application, make those payroll calculations, and then determine if this really is a product that would meet their need. Additionally, businesses have asked, well, what about if I've already applied for an economic injury disaster loan? And what I want to let you know is the SBA will allow businesses to use both a paycheck protection loan as well as an economic injury disaster loan. However, you cannot, as a business, seek to cover your payroll with both loan programs. So if you've already applied for an economic injury disaster loan, you can apply for a paycheck protection loan, but again, you cannot cover your payroll out of both loan programs simultaneously. So it will require perhaps some additional adjustments or recalculations when it comes to taking out the loans to make sure that the business is not covering their payroll from both loan programs. As the Congressman mentioned, the SBA additionally has made debt relief available to businesses who perhaps are currently SBA borrowers, and so the SBA is making the payments on current SBA loans. Additionally, if a business has already received an economic injury disaster loan, perhaps under the recent drought declaration that affected California businesses or the fire, which I know affected some businesses in Kern County, you can, as a small business, also seek an economic injury disaster loan for COVID-19. And your initial loan for other purposes, if you've already got an EIDL loan, no payments are required on that. They'll be deferred through the end of 2020. So again, I think it's important that businesses know that there are resources here to assist you. There are programs available to help you get the capital you need with a particular focus on helping you protect and keep your paid. I also would like to mention that while the COVID-19 virus has brought out in many cases the very best in our communities, unfortunately, it has also in some cases brought out the worst in our communities. So I want to tell you that for both the PPP loan as well as EIDL, businesses should be alert and aware of the fact that there are people who are trying to scam small businesses. So please be suspicious if you have not reached out to SBA first, or you have not submitted an application for an EIDL loan or a PPP loan. The SBA probably will not be contacting you. And so if you're getting email from the SBA and you have not applied for assistance, particularly if that email is asking you for a credit card number, for banking information, or your social security number or other information that would be private information like that, you should be wary of that as a business owner. The Fresno District Office is taking very seriously and aggressively forwarding on any emails that we get that we think might indicate that a business is being taken advantage of. So if you or a business you know has received something that you think is suspicious, please let us be aware of that. You can forward those to our email box, fresno@sba.gov. There's a number of us who are checking that email box, including me, and we have forwarded a number of things on to federal law enforcement officials for them to investigate and potentially take action. Certainly, we have enough challenges in our community right now with trying to support our small businesses. We do not need people that are trying to take advantage of the worry and concern and anxiety of business owners at this difficult time. So if you receive something that you think looks suspicious, please help us by making the SBA aware of it and forwarding on to our office so that we can review that, advise you, and take action. I'd also like to let you know that if you have questions, if you find that even after looking at the information on the SBA and Department of Treasury website, you maybe still have some questions about the loan programs, how to apply, or other things that you need more information about, please feel free to reach out either to the Fresno SBA office, where our staff can assist you, or we have a network of trusted resource partners who are trusted advisors that SBA works with who can help small businesses at no charge to you. You have Kelly Bearden and his wonderful team with the SBDC. You have SCORE, you have the Women's Business Center in Kern County, and all of those organizations are available to assist business owners who have questions or need one-on-one assistance. They are, like the SBA is right now, they're providing assistance either through webinars and video chats like this, on the phone, via email, FaceTime, or Skype. And so we are available to assist you. I also want to let you know that the Fresno SBA District Office does have Spanish-speaking staff. So for any bilingual business owners that wish to have assistance made available to them in Spanish, the SBA is able to help you with that. So over the coming days and weeks, we will continue to work to expand the list of lenders who are available to provide the PPP loan to small businesses. We have heard your concerns and we are aware of them about wanting and needing more lenders. And so we are supporting our local lenders. I'm very proud of how they're stepping up to make the PPP program available to additional businesses throughout the San Joaquin Valley, and continue to check back to the SBA website, sba.gov, where that information will continue to be posted about the PPP program to assist you. So I think we're going to take some questions, and if we don't get to all of those and you would like to follow up after this event, again, please feel free to send an email, fresno@sba.gov. You can also call our main phone line, 559-487-5791, and we will assist you. We're getting about 300 phone calls a day, so the email box probably will get you a quicker response, but we do return calls and we try and return them the same business day. So we are here for you right now during this very difficult time. Thank you again to Congressman Cox for his leadership in putting this event together to help us connect with businesses, and I welcome your questions and any opportunities to further assist you.
Thank you, Don. And that is a great point. Keep your questions coming. We have a number of questions in the question box, and we will get that started in just a little bit. But first, you're going to get to hear a little bit about some of the public assistance that is offered and available through the SBA's resource partners, the SBDCs and others. So I'm Kelly Bearden. I am the director of the CSU Bakersfield Small Business Development Center, or SBDCs as we're referred to as. And the SBDCs have been around for a long time, since probably about 1980. And thank you, Congressman Cox. As part of the stimulus program, there was some supplemental funding to technical assistance providers like SBDCs and some of the others that Don mentioned. And that will actually allow us to increase the number of clients that we work with. Since our services are paid out of, actual taxpayer money, we're able to actually work with a lot of different clients down the road and to do so. And I'm in a little bit of an issue here trying to get my PowerPoint up, which only seems to happen, when you want it to. So I will proceed on without my PowerPoint and try to start my video another time. So Kelly Bearden again, and with the SBDC program. And one thing that the SBDC does is they provide high quality consulting. And there are 1,000 SBDCs across the country. So in every community, there's one. We are located in Bakersfield, downtown Bakersfield, affiliated with CSU Bakersfield, and serve all of Kern, Inyo, and Mono counties. For other areas in the California 21st District, you will see that they are served by actually the Valley Community SBDC, which is hosted by Clovis College and under the fine direction of Richard T. Mostert. So one of the two of us within this district can help you. So it is great that, you have a lot of support out there and a lot of guidance, and we're going to continue to see that coming your way. So one of the things that we have is we have actually a webinar series that we've been running since 2013 called Webinar Wednesday. The webinar actually will be rerunning every Wednesday until the crisis is averted. And we've discussed a lot of different issues that have been occurring throughout the crisis. And some of those are, actually the funding that's going on with small businesses. Yesterday, we spent a lot of time discussing some of the lenders that were participating. And also, since we have had a lot of calls from people that are actually looking for individuals that are looking for banks. And so since they haven't been able to find banks, one of the things that we kind of hope to find are other lenders that are out there to assist other small businesses. And we're finding them. We're finding lenders. We've had people come from some of the major banks that have been having issues, and we continue to populate that list, and we'll continue to work with small businesses on trying to find them a lender for the payroll protection program. So one of the other things in our webinars, we're continuing to work with deferring debt and expenses whenever possible. We're encouraging them to focus on their cash flow. Cash flow has never been more vital and more needed, and it is really something that is really, hey, there we go, really important these days. So as we continue to kind of work through the process and look at cash flow, we're asking our small businesses to adapt and to try to look at resources and opportunities that they have when we get out of this mess. It's going to be an ever-changing environment, and it's going to be very difficult, but look for the unique and creative. And we're not quite there because we're still working with literally hundreds and hundreds of clients on trying to assist them in this particular endeavor. But by finding a bank and by applying for EIDL, and we're encouraging most of our small businesses, all of our small businesses that have employees that have been impacted and don't have the resources to apply for EIDL and to also apply for the PPP. So those are some of the issues that we're particularly seeing. We always encourage everybody to stay safe, protect your family, friends, and workers also. So again, the role for the SBDC in disaster is to assist with loan guidance, and we're doing that at this point. But we also want to maximize your business when you get ready to restart. And we're going to continue to have additional training webinars. We have mentioned we've done 4 on the subject so far. We're going to start working with small businesses and assist them in many ways. So one of the big things moving forward is trying to evaluate funding options for your business. If you're not being able to be served by either of these 2 programs and you still have funding needs, we anticipate some pretty good programs opening up, maybe longer term, to assist you with the re-entry into your business. Really focusing on the cash flow and management aspect and trying to guess and trying to figure out the assumptions of when you're going to be back in business and when your sales are going to populate. One of the things we went over in yesterday's webinar was kind of a spreadsheet model that we had on trying to work with businesses that were trying to figure out what their amount was that they can actually borrow. And so we used an example through the PPP, little basic cash flow forecast, and a little bit of an Excel spreadsheet that actually would show you the amount and the amount that you could get forgiven. So those are the resources that keep popping up. There's just a lot of resources out there for small businesses. We really want them to remain calm and to kind of focus on working on their business and actually getting back. This is a program that has only been going on for 10 days now. And for a program of this magnitude, that is really an extraordinary accomplishment to get it to where it is now. I can't echo enough the sentiment of if you've filed before 3/29 in the EIDL process to go back on, it's a very easy format now. The earlier format SBA was working with is for their disasters that normally occur, that they have worked on in the past, your tornadoes, your hurricanes, your earthquakes, where you see a lot of property damage. The new platform is designed for this economic injury that is massive across the country. So it's really going a long ways toward actually working toward getting everybody back and going. So a few more things before I open it up and we move on to the questions. There's a number of state resources available that I want to mention, and since a large component of this is going to be unemployment and also family leave, there was a family leave state version and a federal version. There's a lot of HR issues that are out there, a lot of support that you can find, and looking at some of the state resources that are available. One thing about the payroll protection plan, tomorrow will be the first day that applications will be accepted for sole proprietors, for single member LLCs, I believe, and also independent contractors. So that happens tomorrow. Our next webinar, we intend to spend a considerable amount of time working with our very tiny businesses, those that maybe don't even employ anyone, but yet have and depend on their business and their revenue and income from the business in order to survive. As we've kind of evolved our economy, our gig economy over the years, it's incredible just the number of small businesses that you see that are ultra small, where people will carve out a job in their particular business, and they're feeling the impact as well. So that's it. You can go to our website. It is csubsbdc.com, or actually what I would do is just Google SBDC for the local center near you. In the 21st district, we serve the Kern County portion and also the northern portions of Fresno, Tulare, and Kings County are served again by the Valley Community SBDC. The services are provided without fee. And so we encourage you to reach out. We are busy, trust me, we're extraordinarily busy, but we are meeting demand and trying to work with everybody to try to get them to their needs. Okay. Well, thank you for that. And it's now time to move on to our questions. And so I will read the questions, and we have a panel of experts that will be able to answer them. The first question that we have is, do you have any further information on how healthcare organizations can apply for CARES Act funding for COVID-19 initiatives?
So I can answer that. So nonprofits that are interested in applying for SBA Paycheck Protection Program or Economic Injury Disaster Loan can go on the SBA website to either find a lender for the PPP program or to apply directly to SBA for an Economic Injury Disaster Loan program.
Oh, thanks very much for that, Dawn. Hey, and before we jump into particular questions, there are some basic questions that encompass basically the kind of the general questions that everyone's asking. One of the key ones, once again, is where can I apply for a loan? It's come up, once again, sba.gov. And the issue is that we've certainly heard that, hey, in my locale, there are only a very few number of lenders that are actually doing this. And what the situation was, is that it was only say that you have a bank. Well, that bank, say it's a community bank. Well, they don't have millions and millions of dollars to actually lend out. And so they were basically constrained by their capacity to lend. That was up until just yesterday when the Fed said, listen, we will basically fund all of your loans. And so it doesn't have to come out of your direct cash. We will provide you with the cash to fund these loans. Okay, so now these banks, the smaller banks, the medium-sized banks, the larger-sized banks, they don't have to worry about actually coming up with the cash to lend out. So now they've got the actual ability to do that. So what you're going to see from today on is a large number of institutions that are going to be able to make the loans. That's the first thing. The second thing is that what we're talking about now with regard to CARES 2 and the supplemental funding is really expanding the universe of available lenders. And so you could have community development financial institutions and the smaller community banks and other organizations that are actually going to get certified to be able to make these loans, all right? So that universe should be going way up just immediately today and going on. And so you'll see a lot more lenders out there. The other question that we've gotten a lot of is with regard to the EIDL loans, the emergency assistance loans that were being put in, is that what's actually the timeline? People said, hey, I've applied for this 2 weeks ago and I haven't heard anything back yet. And what is a reasonable timeline for not only those EIDL loans, but for also the PPP loans? Is that I provided my lender with all the information. They said it'll be a week to get approved, and then basically from what we've heard is that it's supposed to be 10 days maximum from the time that the loan is approved till actually the money is actually dispersed.
So I'll have Corey, I see he just lit up. I'll let him talk about EIDL and then I can weigh in on the PPP.
So in regard to the economic injury disaster loan, we are trying to still shoot for a 14 to 21 day turnaround period. Now, we do have a large number of applications in our system, and we're actually in the process now of putting them into our rapid application transit portal, which is going to make it a lot faster for the processing of the loans, especially the up to 10K in emergency funds that may be forgiven. Now, if you have any questions or would like a status update, I encourage you to email me. You can email me at Corey.Williams. Again, that's COREY.Williams@SBA.gov. I do have access now to, as an administrative user for our rapid application transit portal, but I do want to let you know that all the applications at this time have not actually been transferred over to the portal, but they're putting, you know, thousands upon thousands into the portal by the hour. So again, you can email me at corey.williams@sba.gov, and I can give you but make sure when you email me, please give me your application number. I don't want any other personal identifiable information other than the SBA application number, and that would start with a 3. Thank you.
And I'll just follow up to that, Congressman, on the Paycheck Protection loans. Banks are processing those. I know there's been some examples on the SBA social media pages of businesses that have received funding. So the banks are doing what they can to get those applications processed, and SBA is doing what we can to make sure that they've got access to the systems that they need to do that.
Right. And once again, is that from what I understand, it's supposed to be 10 days from the time that the loan is approved till actually the money's dispersed. That was written into the CARES Act. And so, yeah, so it should be very, very short. And once again, with regard to the number universe of lenders that are available and out there, we should see a tremendous volume of this money going out there and being able to be utilized. The other kind of question I've got is generally is, you know, we have a number of small businesses that have got a number of different locations. And so on one side, and this is what Kelly said, our office has had a number of inquiries from sole proprietors. The guy was a carpet, you know, he's got a nice sole proprietorship cleaning carpets. Well, he's been shut down because nobody wants him to going house to house to house. As Kelly said, is that he's going to be available to apply for an EIDL loan or a PPP, perhaps starting tomorrow through the same portal, the same SBA.gov. But then on the other side, you might have a bit of a larger business where it's a franchisee who has a number of different locations, and these different locations are all organized under separate LLCs. And so he's owns, call it 10 businesses, separate businesses, but they're all one affiliate. Can do owners like that qualify for PPP or these other programs?
So on the PPP side, the rules are clear that it's one PPP loan per borrower. And certainly one of the things, and there was some additional guidance that was released related to affiliations, is SBA is asking the borrower to delineate when they submit their application for PPP to go into some detail about those affiliation issues where it's related to number of employees and the size of the business. So there is an expanded Q&A that's been posted on the Treasury website, Congressman, related to affiliation that I think probably will answer some of those questions for borrowers, and I would encourage them to go online and take a look at that.
Okay. No, thanks so much for that, Dawn. And just a kind of a related question to that, certainly, and this is something that we're getting quite a bit from our ag industry, is that who utilize contractors who are working for the business, or these payroll employee organizations that employees work for the business, but they're actually employed by another separate third party. And would those businesses qualify, and how would they go about doing that? Because they've got a large payroll, but it's not directly to that business.
So I would just pause at that point and say, I can't really give you anything specific about that other than to say that SBA is aware of that. That issue has been brought forth, and SBA is aware of that.
Right. Yeah. As we said before, is that this has come about really just days, and calendar days, not working days too. And keep in mind is that, you know, the public servants that are working towards these things, they're under shelter in place stipulations as well. All right. And so they're doing a tremendous job, either at an offsite locale or working wherever they can. And it's a tremendous amount of work, but they're all working towards that collective goal, knowing what needs to be done. And with the short, like I said, it was legislation that came together very quickly. It's being rolled out, and it will get better, and I can see it getting better day by day. And so hopefully next week we'll be able to come back with a broader update with more lenders, more definitive timelines, and more answers to these questions. So anyways, those were a couple of questions, kind of general questions that we have received through the office. And Kelly, if we had any other specific questions, let's be able to see if we can field some of those.
We have no shortage of questions. So the next one is, I am in the rental business and I rent to farm worker families who are unable to pay rent at this time. Do I qualify for a loan?
Yes, they would qualify for an economic injury disaster loan because that's actually that's their economic injury was the lost monthly rent. So that would qualify for the economic injury disaster loan.
And I would say on PPP, I don't know if that business has employees, but certainly if they have employees that are maintaining those properties or, you know, collecting rent or things like that, that they're unable to pay or challenged to pay, they could potentially qualify under PPP, but it would just depend on the specific details of that.
Okay, next question. I have a small art gallery. I'm self-employed and I sell my artwork and I also do teaching classes. The gallery's been closed since the middle of last month and I have some questions. Are there any grant opportunities for small businesses during this time, or any availability of funding that does not have to be repaid for small businesses with smaller and tighter profit margins?
Well, with the economic injury disaster,
go ahead.
Sorry, Don, do you want to
go ahead? You're good. Go ahead.
With the economic injury disaster loan program, it offers the up to $10,000, which may be forgiven. Now, again, it sounds like she is an independent contractor, and at this time, there wouldn't be any kind of a grant for any kind of small business that I'm aware of. But Don, I'll go ahead and pass to you if you know of any other opportunities.
Yeah, so for the PPP program, the self-employed can start submitting their applications tomorrow. And so it just, again, depend on, you know, if she's looking to pay her own payroll, you know, that could potentially be something covered under PPP. And for self-employed and independent contractor, that application window opens tomorrow.
Fantastic. Our next question. As a business with no employees, it's just me, what can I expect to receive in the way of a grant, loan, and when?
Well, in regard to the economic injury disaster loan program, they can apply as an independent contractor or sole proprietor. But the way it's set up, and again, we are making a number of modifications in regard to the forgiveness portion. Most likely, and I preface that by saying most likely, in regard to the amount that would be forgiven, it would be probably capped at $1,000 if they are kind of a self-employed situation. But that decision will be made by our processing center as to the amount of them that will be forgiven, but most likely it'd be up to $1,000 in their situation since it's a one employee company.
And again, on the PPP program, self-employed can start applying as of tomorrow. The portion of the PPP loan, which is used to pay payroll, is forgivable. So it's not a grant, but it is a forgivable loan, meaning it wouldn't have to be paid back, provided that the business owner was able to document that to their lender on the backside of the application.
Our next question is, we are a co-op art gallery, and I'm going to assume by a co-op art gallery that you have an art gallery and you rent space to other artists. That's what I believe a co-op art gallery is. So the question is, I was wondering if there is any program that applies to pay for the rent.
Yes. So again, that for that co-op, just like similar to an agriculture co-op, that actual lost rents is their economic injury. So thus, that art co-op is eligible for the economic injury disaster loan program. Now, most likely in that situation, since it sounds like there's not many employees, it's more of they're actually leasing it out to different kind of independent contractors. It probably wouldn't be any kind of amount that will be forgiven as far as for the economic injury disaster loan forgiveness, but it is definitely eligible for the economic injury disaster loan program.
And on the PPP, you can cover rent under PPP, but 75% of your loan needs to be used on payroll.
Fantastic. Great. Next question. I've heard rumors about some of these loans. I've heard that you only qualify for $1,000 per employee. Is that correct?
For the economic injury disaster loan, of course, there's no official, press release stating that it's $1,000 per employee, but and we are definitely working on different messaging, but that's kind of been the circulation that it is approximately $1,000 per employee. So for the economic injury, until we get further guidance, and that guidance probably will be coming within the next day or so, that's roughly what the EIDL forgiveness would be based on W-2 employees, not 1099 independent contractors.
Our next question. This looks like it's for you, Don. When is your employee count determined for the PPP? Over the 2019 calendar year or the date of the disaster?
Yes. So the short answer is there is a lot of detail on both the SBA and Department of Treasury webpage. The longer answer is that the SBA is looking at a period covering February 15th to June 30th. Certainly we recognize there's a lot of nuances to that, for example, seasonal employees. So that's right now the generally covered window, but there are some, there's some, expanded and additional detail on the SBA webpage that I think is useful to people to answer questions about employee count as well as payroll calculations.
I'm interested in hearing about forgivable loans.
So again, the Paycheck Protection Program is a loan that would help small businesses pay their employees, and the portion that is used for payroll needs to be 75% of the loan is potentially forgivable. It can be used for additional purposes, including rent, interest on mortgage, and utilities, but the bulk of the loan needs to be used on payroll, and the the borrower can submit documentation to their lenders supporting the request for forgiveness. Any balance on the loan which is not forgiven, the borrower has up to 2 years at a low 1% interest to repay that and no prepayment penalty.
Our next question, I'm going to preface our next question a little bit. It comes from a business that's a farm. And the question is, can we still apply for these loans and how?
For the economic injury disaster loan, small agriculture co-ops, similar to the art co-op question, are eligible for the loan, and small aquaculture businesses are eligible. But primarily farming-based operations, we encourage you to we encourage those businesses to contact their local U.S. Department of Agriculture rep or their local Farm Services agency. So that would probably be their better source of relief, going through USDA or their local Farm Services agency.
Okay. Anything to add on the PPP, Don? Are farms eligible?
So I would just add, there was an information bulletin I saw that came out from USDA yesterday that USDA, I believe it's guaranteed lenders, are going to be able to do PPP loans, but I don't have any further information. There's not been anything additional released about that.
Okay, and our next one is from a nonprofit entity. And can nonprofits include independent contractors that are paid on 1099 form on the SBA PPP loan?
So on the PPP loan, the independent contractors need to seek their own PPP loan. And again, recognizing this is one of these very complicated nuances, there's some good information on the SBA and Department of Treasury website, but the general rule of thumb here is that if there's an independent contractor, they would actually need to seek their own PPP loan.
Okay, next question. Are sole proprietor businesses with an ITIN number eligible to apply for funding? We have no employees reported on W-2s.
Yes, for the EIDL program, they are eligible to apply. Again, similar situation. Most likely, they would not qualify for any of the forgiveness portion, but they are eligible to apply for the economic injury disaster loan.
And on PPP, sole proprietors are in the window right now where they could potentially apply, but it would be a matter of structuring the loan request to really focus on the portion that they're spending on payroll.
And just for our audience that doesn't know what an ITIN number is, can somebody elaborate on that, please?
It's a tax ID number.
Okay, there you go. Okay, next one. As a child care provider licensed by the state of California, do I qualify?
Go ahead, Corey. Go ahead.
Yes, as a child care provider, sounds like they are probably an independent contractor. They probably don't have any kind of a business entity. So in that case, yes, they can apply for the economic injury disaster loan as an independent contractor.
And for PPP, if the business is, if they have employees, they could potentially seek a PPP loan to make payroll. If they have folks that they have as independent contractors, then the independent contractors would need to request their own PPP loan.
Next question. And I'll preface this one because Fresno and Kern counties are the two largest agricultural counties in the nation. Can a grower include his cost paid to a farm labor contractor?
So this is one I'm going to have to say, and I saw this in the question list. I know that there have been numerous questions raised relative to the ag industry here in the San Joaquin Valley. I know the SBA is looking at that. It's not entirely clear on some of the finer details of that. So I'm going to just have to pause there and say that SBA is aware that that's a challenge for some of our businesses and is taking a look at that.
Our business applied for the SBA EIDL loan? Oh, Corey,
but before you go to that, Kelly, let me weigh in on that. That is certainly a question that we've been getting a lot of, and we're working with the SBA directly with the committee and the Treasury Department to be able to take care of those particular questions. Is that, with the initial legislation, they tried to catch as big a net as possible, which they've done. But there are these types of other organizations, and with the newness of the program, those types of questions will get answered. The totality, though, and the congressional intent was obviously if people are getting laid off and it's going to harm your business, we want to be able to take care of them. All right, and so just every day, like I said, we've got these questions that are being posed to the people that that can weigh in and answer those questions, and we will get those questions answered for you. So.
Okay, great. Our next question. And I think, Corey, you mentioned this earlier, but I'll bring it up again. Our business applied for the SBA EIDL loan in advance on March 31st. Other than receiving a loan application confirmation number, I've had no communication regarding the application. When can I expect communication?
Great question. So we're still aiming for that 14 to 21 day turnaround, but I would encourage that business to go ahead and send an email to me at corey.williams@sba.gov with the application number only. Again, I don't want to have any personally identifiable information other than the application itself, and I do have administrative access to our rapid application transit portal, so I can see if the application has been put into the new portal and give an update accordingly.
And Corey, that 14, if I might weigh in, that 14 to 21 day window is holding true from what we've experienced in the last day or two. A number of our clients, at least a handful, have weighed in that they applied on the 18th, and that's 21 days. They reapplied on the 31st, and that's 9 days later, and they received the notification and their award and further information and where to proceed on Tuesday night. So we've had probably about a half a dozen, and that's kind of one of the benefits we have is we're encouraging our SBDC clients to stay in touch with us so we can provide up-to-date information and to try to help all of our small business owners. But that is very consistent with what we're seeing.
I'd like to just add to that too, that we've had a number of businesses that I've spoken to personally at the Fresno SBA district office that have stayed in contact and said that they've gotten a response from SBA and they're making a decision on their loan. So we definitely know that businesses are getting responses from SBA because those applications are being processed.
And on with our next question. My bank is no longer accepting applications for PPP, and other banks are only accepting applications from their current customers. Where can I go to access this program?
Yes, so as I mentioned at the very top, I'm very aware that there's been some real challenges here in the San Joaquin Valley for businesses to find a lender that they can work with. We've had a number of local lenders reach out to us who said, hey, we want to be a PPP lender. And so my office is working with them to get them access to the things that they need that we can do locally, and then to hand them off at the headquarters level so that they can get assistance, further assistance, and be able to fully access everything they need to do PPP loans. So I do anticipate that in the next few days, the coming days and weeks ahead, we will have additional lenders on that list that will provide additional avenues for businesses to be able to find a lender, to go in, to submit an application, and be able to get access to the capital that we know that they really need right now.
Yeah, and as I was saying too, is that really with the Fed being able to make the liquidity for these banks and these financial institutions available now, that's really going to open up that pool and expand that universe. And so you should see daily the number of those available lenders expand.
Yeah, and the only thing I might add to that is please remember that a few major banks haven't opened their portal yet. They haven't got everything ready to accept applications, one of them being Citibank. So, please, I know it's very difficult to be patient, but we're asking you to be a little bit patient on this. And if your bank is firm on no longer accepting applications, contact your local SBDC. Also, we're kind of compiling a list of local banks in our community. We have a handful in Kern County that are doing that. And so if you have no other recourse, but you have to remember when you go in, the bank is going to want your entire banking relationship in most cases. You will be switching banks. And so that's a big step for a lot of companies that have a lot of transfers and a lot of different activity going on within their accounts. So, you always seem to be best with the bank that you're with. But if you can't get help, there will be some programs and some banks that are coming through, as Don mentioned, many of them on the community bank side.
Yeah, and certainly if I could weigh in, is that, and you know what you're going to need when you go in for a loan application, right? You're going to need your previous tax returns. You're going to need an updated balance sheet, your most recent profit and loss statements. Certainly banks and the SBA want to see the list of your payables and the liabilities that you have out there right now. It's pretty standard about what you need, but so I would suggest putting together that information now and having it available both electronically and in hard form for that bank to be able to make their job that much easier when you have that type of information.
Here's a question. Changing the pace a little bit, many of our employers are contractors. I don't know if that's supposed to be many of our employees or contractors who have used their personal accounts to run their business. Without a business account, how can they access the SBA loan program? What course of action should they take?
For the economic injury disaster loan, independent contractors are eligible to apply. Our processing center will make the determination on bank accounts because we do understand that they don't have any kind of a business entity set up, such as a sole proprietorship, LLC, LLP, C Corp, or S Corp. So our processing center will make that determination in regard to the economic injury disaster loan.
And on the PPP, the independent contractors can begin applying starting tomorrow. There is, again, some documentation on the SBA website about the kinds of, and Treasury, about the kinds of things that independent contractors can use to, demonstrate their costs and things related to payroll. So there is some information there that they can use for that.
Here's just a comment. My English is not so good, so I was wondering if you could send out a summary of information via email after the meeting, if any resources that'll be available. Also, please remember at the SBDC, SBDCs have bilingual consultants that are English-Spanish. Don mentioned the SBA has resources, so we do have a lot of Spanish-speaking resources that can help you as well.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. Oh, go ahead, Don.
If they send an email, they can send it in Spanish to fresno@sba.gov. We do have bilingual staff who will reply to them in Spanish, either via email or they can call them. So we're happy to assist. That's not a problem.
Yeah, and if you call my office, whoever picks up the phone will be bilingual. And you can also add our website, the cox.house.gov. That's also in Spanish as well. And so if you have particular questions, once again, just reach out and we'll get those answered for you in either Spanish or English.
Additionally, I'd like to add that the SBA website, the sba.gov website, in the upper right-hand corner, there's a link, there's a button in Espanol, and it will automatically translate everything into Spanish. So much of the SBA website where this information is also available in Spanish to assist bilingual entrepreneurs and business owners.
The next question asks if the SBA disaster loan program, if it's awarded by geographic area. So is there a specific dollar amount to be awarded that has been awarded to the Central Valley, or is there a breakdown by county?
For the economic injury disaster loan program, all of our loans are directly funded from the U.S. Treasury. So there's no geographic areas and there's no limit to what we can do as far as our economic injury disaster loan program.
And the same with PPP. There's not an allocation of PPP money for the San Joaquin Valley. So.
Yeah, and just an example of how things continually evolve is that originally for the EIDL program, there were just a stipulated number of counties in California that were qualified. And in the 21st Congressional, it was actually only Kern County that was qualified. We led a letter to the governor, make sure that the whole entire state was qualified, and basically that was made concurrently. So yeah, the entire state qualifies for the EIDL program and PPP.
Question's a little off the topic, but is state or federal resources available for free cost of health services to workers and their families to protect them from the current pandemic?
I'm not sure that particular question is that, and I didn't see that, is that it's a question with regard to resources to protect people from the pandemic. Certainly the employers, if people are out there, are providing personal protection equipment. You certainly provide that themselves. Practice the social distancing and the common sense measures to be able to keep yourself safe. Money is coming to the state and local governments to be able to provide this type of equipment, and certainly to the healthcare organizations as well. Not sure that the answer to that particular question, but we're trying to make as many resources as possible to keep people safe.
Well, that is the questions that we have.
Okay. Well, that's good, because we're just about out of time. We certainly need to get Don and Corey back to work. They are doing that's where the rubber really hits the road about their organization, which is, I don't know what the volume compared to what the SBA does in a normal year. I've got to imagine it's multitudes greater than what you'd be doing in a normal year. I can tell you is that the SBA is such an integral part of what we do every day in business. It is dedicated towards helping that entrepreneur grow from a single startup to just huge organizations that really make a significant difference in our communities, our state, and around the country. Thank you for all that you do in your team, Don. And so we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much, Kelly, for moderating today and for what you do down there. And I guess I would say at the end of the day, we're here for you. Things are evolving each and every day. Keep yourself up to date and informed by either reaching out to the SBA directly, and I'll give everyone an opportunity to share the best way to get questions answered from each one of your organizations again. Or you can certainly reach out to our office at the cox.house.gov website, our Central Valley Coronavirus basically resource site, email or call the office. We're here to serve. And so finally, to close, Corey, Don, Kelly, if you'd like to have any final words and share the best way for anybody to get in touch with you.
Sure.
Well, thank you again.
Go ahead, Corey.
I apologize, Don.
Okay.
Ladies first.
Oh, okay. So again, if you wish to reach out to the Fresno SBA office, our email, fresno@sba.gov. If you wish to reach us by phone, area code 559-487-5791. Again, we're here to assist you. I want to say thank you so much to Congressman Cox. Thank you to Kelly and the SBDC and our other resource partners, and of course our lenders. We're all in this together. We're all working together and collaborating to support the small businesses that are doing so much to support the economy here in the San Joaquin Valley and around California. So if there's anything that we can do, please reach out to my office. And things are going to get better. I know it's been a tough couple of weeks, but it is going to get better, and we're all in this together. So let us know what the SBA can do to assist you.
And thank you again also, Congressman Cox, for allowing me to be on this webinar. The one thing, if you're going to apply for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, you'll go to COVID-19relief.sba.gov. Again, COVID-19relief.sba.gov. And if you have already applied, feel free to send me an email with your application number to Corey, COREY, .williams@sba.gov. Thank you again, Congressman Cox.
Thank you so much for what you guys are doing, Corey.
The only thing I would add is that if you need additional assistance, just Google SBDC, and you'll find the nearest center near you. And we're going to continue to stay on this until it's done. I appreciate everything Congressman Cox is doing to bring this forum together and what he's doing for all the residents of the 21st Congressional District. So there's a lot of help out there. Get it.
Yep. Yeah, no, thanks so much, Kelly. And once again, we are here to work for you. So everyone, anyone that signed up, they'll get a copy of certainly the slides that we presented. I think Kelly might have had some slides as well that you can share, that we'll get those out to everyone. And so thanks again, everyone, for joining us today. Let's stay safe. Let's maintain our social distancing, our physical distancing. Let's all wash our hands, and we'll get all through this together. So thanks again, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.